Everything begins like this. Crush of sky, tender skin. Pink shatters blue, orange shatters pink. White caps lit from above, lightning. Geese break from their V. Red sky and morning, sailors take warning. Everything begins like this. Color, water, crush of sky. Red sky, warning, everything breaks. The one who poisons the well. Cassandra with her hair in flames, stake of wooden beams. As in, ocean temperatures rise, penguins starve, polar bears drown, sardines, tuna, sharks, seabirds vanish. Sea turtles, sex changed by temperature, all turn female, slowly vanish. No one at sea is safe from human greed. The one who poisons the well, isn't she lonely? Ash rains, sailors with their hair in flames, Cassandra at the stake, warning, red sky breaks. So something that's interested me about a lot of our climate change environmental issues is that the kind of extremes that are developing, and I think many scientists predict will continue to develop. So in 2010, 2011, we had droughts everywhere, just a global massive droughts. And yet last fall in upstate New York, where I used to live, they also had this horrible flooding from hurricane rains. So at the same time that so much of the world is suffering from horrible droughts, we've got this other part of the world suffering from terrible flooding. So this next section of the poem tries to deal with some of that, and you'll notice a voice that is not mine, and these are excerpts, and that's something that kind of recurs in the book. I use a lot of scientific language and other people's language to help kind of talk about some of these water issues. So these are excerpts from a friend's letter who described to me the floods that happened in upstate New York. So when I get to the Ausable River, that's when we shift out of my language. Forecast. Oceans warmed, weather patterns changed, surging coastlines, tornadoes, hurricanes, drought, or floods. Upstate New York. The Ausable rose 18 feet. My barn washed away, smashed to pieces. The cat spent 24 hours in the top of a large white pine. We moved the horses, water up to my neck. The house's foundation collapsed, garage ripped away, wood shed, 3 feet of water downstairs. Mud in kitchen cabinets, mud in the bathroom sink, in the bed, closets, mud, mold, rotting wood. Floods or drought. Rivers empty, sun scorched, fish dead in drying lake beds, boats run aground. Dust in the street, corn and soybean dead on the stalk, wheat, rapeseed, rice, livestock dead in the street. 14 million people short of drinking water in China, miles and miles of drought in Texas, the worst drought to hit the Horn of Africa in 60 years, French drought a serious threat to 44 nuclear reactors, risk of fusion of the cores, and thus an accident. Forecast. Mud in the street. This poem tries to kind of incorporate my father into the story a little bit, or this section of the poem. And something that I always found really kind of funny about him was that he dedicated most of his life to clean water all over the world. I mean, he was kind of centered in Cincinnati, Ohio, and worked very hard on clean water issues there, but he also traveled the world talking about clean water issues. And yet he didn't know how to swim. And he didn't like nature, really. He didn't like being outside. He didn't want to go sailing ever. So he had this real passion for kind of the microbiological side of water issues, but not kind of the pleasurable side of water issues. So I was thinking about this one day and remembered that Keats, who many of you know as a poet, has on his gravestone, "Here lies one whose name was writ in water." So this poem kind of tries to incorporate my dad a little bit. Keats' tombstone. Here lies one whose name was writ in water. Here lies you who couldn't swim. Your lungs infection filled, rivers of veins collapsed. Who drowned? You whose name was writ. Dr. Scarpino has an extensive background in water. And my dreams filled with waves, salt sting, burn of jellyfish, pulsing. Your hands filled with waves. And I dive, rivers of blood pulsing, scraping sand, air tightening, chest burning. And I break the surface to breath, light, sky, cool wind in my hands. Whose name was writ. Here lies one who couldn't swim. My dreams filled with waves, your hands drowning. So this is the last section of poem I'll read, and this new collection tries to incorporate kind of stories of how we think the universe was created as well, because I think any kind of water story has to go back to where the water came from. So a thing that I think is really cool, and maybe all of you know this, but I didn't know this until recently, was that scientists believe that our moon actually used to be Earth, that it was all one body, and an asteroid hit, and portions of the Earth kind of flung out into space and coalesced into the moon. And I think this is especially neat when you're thinking about water, because the moon has such an effect, right? The relationship of the Earth to the moon, it has such an effect on our tides and all sorts of things. So when you think about the moon, you can think about it actually being a piece of our Earth out there. In the beginning, Earth, a barren place, molten rock, clouds of dust, gas, no moon to slow its turn through space. It spun and spun, 6 hours in a day. Then an asteroid, comet, impact. Earth's mantle, crust, broke into orbit, coalesced. A moon, our moon, the pull of it, and everything changed. In the beginning, the moon so close, tides rose thousands of feet, miles of rock pounded, the sound of it, chemicals leached. Life's base, eventually. Sludge, amoeba, fish, mammals. Eventually you, eventually me. And still the moon pulls up as Earth pulls down, tides pulsing. And still each year moon spins 2 inches away. Until one day, in the beginning, your voice, your hands, your face, and now you pull away. Each year the distance grows.